Okay, welcome everybody. Leigh, welcome to the Patent Professor Show. I know we've just opened up. It's 1 o'clock, so we're having several participants coming in now. It's an absolute honor to have you here today. I know I'm super excited for this inventor interview, and a lot of our viewers may not be that familiar with you, but for patent attorneys like me, it feels like we're interviewing Thomas Edison of our time. Leigh, who don't know, Leigh's the inventor of 250 granted U.S. patents, another 280 pending worldwide, including patents that have been sold to Apple, to eBay, Citrix, and even the U.S. Department of Commerce, and several major car manufacturers. Even Thomas Edison himself only had around 1,000 patents, for those that don't know. So without further delay, Leigh, it's such a pleasure to have you on today.
John, I'd be certainly remiss if I didn't thank you, and it's also just a pleasure and an honor to be here and talking to everybody.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to start out just with, it's kind of unusual to have this slide, but there's a well-known defense attorney, which I think a lot of people know, John Morgan of Morgan and Morgan, and his slogan is "For the People." And the reason I bring this up, I think it's interesting, is that there's this perception out there that people can get injured, right? Like anybody can get hit by a bus, but or in a car accident, but ideas come from corporations. And I just want to say that, and of all people, you know this, that's complete bull. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a basement, and his door was like, his desk was a door on concrete blocks, and he delivered his own packages. Walt Disney was working in a studio with his brother in the back of a real estate office. Sam Walton started as a salesperson for J.C. Penney. Wayne Huizenga, since we're both in South Florida, like who doesn't know Wayne Huizenga? His fortune started with a borrowed $5,000 from his father, but Blockbuster. Of course, Bill Gates, the inventor of Microsoft. Sarah Blakely, the world's youngest female billionaire. She, in fact, just sold Spanx, I believe, for over $1 billion. Michael Dell, of course, and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Often I get people wondering, inventors saying, well, I don't know if my prototype is professional, as if somehow inventors have to have really professional looking prototypes in order to get to create a company that, as Steve Jobs would say, makes a dent in the universe. So here's Apple computers, one of their earlier prototypes made out of wood. Netflix, like two guys that started a home-based mail order business. Larry Page, Sergey Brin developed Google, which was originally called Backrub back in 1996. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. James Dyson, the inventor of the Dyson vacuum. The Wright brothers, they were two bicycle mechanics. They created the airplane. And I started with my graphics people trying to get some of your patents down here. And then eventually, after about 20 or so, I said, guys, this is not gonna work when an inventor has 250 granted patents. So with that, I'm just so happy to have you here. You dispelled this myth that that's really in the interest of corporations trying to paint individual inventors as patent trolls, as if there's no major development or companies or anything coming out from them. And just this, I mean, look at who the large corporations are today. I mean, Google, Dell Computer, Facebook, all of these, they all started with somebody with an idea that ended up changing an entire industry. And that's you know, in Europe, of these 250 patents, the majority of them, I believe you're the sole inventor.
Yes, that's true. And I couldn't agree more. It's been amazing and inspiring to me that some of the great ideas that have really created a lot of the modern, technological age have come from these little backwater nothing, startups that have become really something and so amazing, like Apple, like, Facebook, like Twitter, like Dell, just amazing. We have a guy now that is launching rockets into space successfully, that started from nothing, that created the electric car market, Elon
Yep.
Musk, again, you don't see it coming from huge corporations, you see it coming from individuals. And that to me has always been inspirational, as you're saying, John,
Yeah.
totally inspirational.
I mean, look at, you would expect the electric car would, where was GM? Where was Ford? Where was Chrysler?
Right.
Where were these guys? This individual comes out from nowhere and does this. So it's really the backbone of this country. I mean, that's and I have seen, even in my own practice, I've had individual inventors that have changed entire industries, like the dental retainer industry, the surgical camera lens defogger. These are all inventions that were started by somebody who just questioned, why are things done the way they're done? And they might be outside of the industry, but sometimes that's what the industry needs. I mean, they need somebody from the outside. The taxi cab industry was not going to themselves improve the way you get a cab. Nothing's changed with hailing a cab for over a century until again, an individual came along and said, you know what, we've got the technology already. We've got the cell phone, we've got the satellites, we've got GPS. Why are we going out there, standing on a street corner, flagging down a taxi cab? It just didn't make any sense. But sometimes the innovation has to come from the outside. And it's a little unfortunate that when it does, that the outside inventor is painted as a troll, when in fact, they're the ones that are improving the quality of life and changing companies, changing entire industries because of that. So I wanted to get that out there to start, because and I mentioned the billboard from John Morgan is for the people versus corporations. And I think there's this perception that patent attorneys are corporate attorneys, that we represent companies and we're protecting ideas from companies. But the earth-changing ideas are not coming from corporate America. They're coming from individuals. And yes, those companies take off if they've got the right idea at the right time. They end up becoming the Amazons of today. But the Amazon of today started with a guy in his basement trying to sell books online.
Correct. Einstein said it best, and to paraphrase, if it's not different, not abstract, not, and I'm using my word, not his, but paraphrasing, not crazy, don't be thinking about it.
That's right.
So unbelievable.
So tell us a little bit about your start, and of course you're a prolific inventor today, but bring us back to the early days. And I think it's going to be going back, your first patent was, you're still a teenager. So tell us about that and bring us along to some of the hardships that typically come before you start seeing success, because there's, a lot of people follow what you're doing now and the success you're having. But a lot of our viewers or listeners are on their first idea. So I would like for them to hear from someone talk about what it's like to have those early ideas and have them come to fruition.
Right. I mean, for me, inventing has just come naturally. You just can't force it. And it's just something that just pops in my head. It could be in the movie theater, or it could be when I'm walking, or it could be, sometimes I'll have a dream and then I'll make a note it, when I wake up, and that becomes, so it's just been a part of my life, as you were pointing out or inferring, since I was 17 when I filed my first patent, but it is a hard road. It can be a hard road, as you're saying, to be an inventor. The one thing that I would stress to your viewers today is, don't let anyone say that, your idea is not a great idea. You have to feel it. The most important judge, I think, of an invention in the early stage, so that you don't dismiss something that's great, like the idea of getting rid of taxi cabs, as you were saying, and which becomes Uber, or the idea of making something insanely great that you would think another company could do. So often you hear, well, Leigh, or well, John, if that's such a good idea, then Microsoft would have done it, or IBM would have done it, or another company. So you can't allow yourself to be discouraged. I've patented a lot of things that, John, that I've been amazed, when I come up with it. And I never really patent or conceive of ideas. I like ideas for the ideas themselves, not necessarily at that point for monetization. And you'll file with the patent office and you'll get lucky and they'll issue a patent and wow, someone will call, Disney will call and say, we like a license on that, or Netflix or someone, or you'll sell something to Apple. That comes later. So don't think that if you like it, maybe that's, for me anyway, that's the best judge of all. That's the best judge of all. So I think one of the main pieces of advice I give to myself and I give to everyone else, of course, at this stage in my career, I'm kind of, been doing it for a while. So, but I always keep in mind, gee, that's kind of silly, but no, not really, maybe. And you know what? I don't care if it is or not. If it's something that I like, and I think it's going to be an improvement. People always ask me, John, why do you invent? Why do you invent? And the reason is, there's one word, I guess, that would best describe it, and it's frustration. Gee, why can't we do that better? Why can't we transmit, directions into a car? That's one of my patents. Or why can't, when I get out of the store here, I'm in Home Depot, why can't they give me an electronic receipt so I can track it? That's another invention that I came up, electronic receipts. So, things like that. Why can't you scan? I've had a lot of inventions in this area, as you may know. Why can't you take a symbology, such as a barcode or a QR code, and scan it and deliver results to a user? Tell them all about the item. Connect them to the item. So why can't that be done? How come no one else has done that? But that seems like something that people should be able to do that would be useful. As a geek, I guess I'm a geek. As a geek, if it satisfies me, maybe it will satisfy someone else. And on that basis, I just keep going.
So you do believe that necessity being the mother of invention. It's stuff that you would hope that if it existed, your quest would end right there. Like you would just buy it and it would solve your problem, and that would be it. It's just when you don't find something and you think that item would improve your life, that's when your mind starts going, well, why isn't this done?
Yeah, I get frustrated and they say, why can't I do this? Or many times, wow, this is really crappy. There's got to be a better way. Got to be a better way. Then I'll tinker with it. Sometimes I'll tinker with it for about 1 minute and it just comes to me. And, and then it's almost like someone is handing it to me and I'll translate it onto a yellow pad with my yellow pads. And, that will later become a disclosure that will go to, an early disclosure to a patent attorney. And then later on, it will take life as a patent. Other times I'll tinker with it for years. I still have things that I'm tinkering with. So that I just say, for whatever reason, I don't feel like patenting them yet. So I don't know if that's a good solution. I guess, again, the critic I'm trying to satisfy, which sometimes can be difficult, is me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. As a patent attorney, I've been practicing a long time and teaching patent law as a professor.
Right.
In 2013, there's a huge change in patent law, the single biggest change of the century, when the US went from a first to invent system to a system based on first to file. And again, first to invent was really in favor of individual inventors and small startups, because they typically don't have patent attorneys employed full-time. They don't have the resources to run and rush and file a patent, but there's a lot of lobbying by larger companies to go to first to file. That hurts the inventor like you, who has a bunch of stuff that they're tinkering with in their, in their garage.
Right.
They haven't actually filed the patent yet because you have so many ideas, but you've actually developed something. You have evidence of the idea. Under first to invent, you could take your time to really fully develop it and then rush and file. Today, you're at a significant disadvantage because you don't have the resources to file a patent on all your ideas. And sometimes you're developing them and that hurts you. Do you find some pressure to, which one of these do I file the patent on? Because we're now on a first to file system. I can't just keep tweaking them without taking a risk that somebody else is going to get that application in first.
I guess, but probably in terms of what you said, which of course I'm aware of as an established inventor, probably, but the answer is to be critical again of myself, maybe not as much pressure as I should have. I guess I'll face the prior art issues, when it gets to the patent office. I'm not recommending that for everyone, but I have a lot of patents, so it's a matter of getting this one out or getting that one out, or, but it's certainly, I would recommend to anyone that if they have something that they can, put it into a disclosure and get it to the patent office. And as you and I know, you can always, after the patent's issued, as long as the specification is inclusive and you want it to be inclusive,
Right.
you want it to be covering every possible, situation, then you can always file, and you should file continuations to,
Right.
absolutely, to make claims based on the specifications. So there is that opportunity. But with as many patents and as many crazy ideas as I have, they don't always come maybe as quickly, and I haven't filed probably as quickly as I should in all cases.
Yeah. So, well, because you've been inventing for a long time before 2013, so it's hard to
Right.
change, and a lot of inventors have. So it's hard to change that mindset of like, okay,
Right.
let me document it. The old advice that attorneys would give clients would be document your idea. If you produce prototypes, keep the receipts, date and sign a logbook, because all of this could be useful in court if you had to prove that you were the first inventor. All of a sudden, to have all this advice go out the window in 2013, because proving you're the first inventor doesn't do anything anymore if you haven't filed. So that creates a bit of pressure, I think, for some inventors, especially that are really start inventing post 2013, because they've started inventing with this pressure of let me run and file first. Established inventors, a lot of them are still following the route that has made them successful of let me document. And let's face it, inventors, a lot of them are perfectionists. They love to, like you called yourself, I think, a geek. And what part of that is, okay, this is good, but I know I can make it better. And you want to keep getting it to the next level, improving the idea. But I think you figured out that the way to do that is to get that first patent in and file a continuation application where you can further modify the idea.
And as I said earlier, sometimes it will just come to me all at once and I can just dash out a disclosure. My patent attorney can dash out an application and I'm satisfied. It's done and it's over. But other times, maybe it is a bit of trying to be a perfectionist. Other times it's like, well, maybe this, maybe that, maybe can add to it. What can I do? It's probably silly, by the way, but it's just the way my mind works.
Yeah. Tell us about your early in your career, like your earlier patents, like how does one start down this road of accumulating 250 patents? I mean, they say the longest journey starts with one step. Your first step was at 17 with that initial patent, and then what happened after that?
Just for a while, I wasn't really following the patent system in the beginning, but then I realized that, patents were a good way to protect. I did the first one, as you said, and I said at 17, but there was a bit of a hiatus where I was thinking, I'll get involved in business, and I did, and I had some successful startups and business opportunities. And then I kind of realized as I got a little bit older that, I should probably protect some of my ideas and follow the patent system. I guess we had one of my patents, and that patent became reasonably litigated. And I had success against some major corporations in regard to that patent, and produced a reasonable amount of money, or even probably a substantial amount of money. And that kind of also said to me, wow, I shouldn't just let these things be, floating around in my desk. I probably should. So, but I've never really patented just the patent, John. I patented things that, that I'm I really am interested in. But then it did become, I will say at that point, it became a regularized process. At some point, I realized that's probably what I need to be doing. And I set it up as a process and followed through and started filing, so many things. I have now probably that haven't been filed yet, more than 150 disclosures, to give you an idea. Things just pop in, and I am the mad professor in the fact, or the mad scientist, just mad maybe period, that totally nuts period. I'll be doing exactly what I know I shouldn't do. I'm writing them on napkins. I'm writing them on, on little pieces of paper in my office. I write them digitally sometimes. I have a notebook of them now. I saw somewhere that one of the inventors, I think Edison actually, you mentioned Edison earlier, had a notebook. So now I decided I'll have a notebook too. He can have a notebook. I can have a notebook. I'm filling this notebook, but I'm still writing them on napkins, and I'm still writing them on pieces of paper, and so it's kind of crazy. And then hopefully get around at some point to filing them.
Yeah. So like your digital background that you have right now, like that's not too far off from some of the drawings that I end up seeing at my office with initial ideas. So this inventors sometimes have this perception that because the technology allows beautiful CAD drawings, that's
right.
what you need to have. But here, you guys that are here today, like, look, a guy with 250 granted patents in the US, 280 pending worldwide. This is like you've heard it directly from him, a notebook with a pen. And because you don't know when that idea is going to come to you. It might come at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes
right.
you need to document it there because you go back to sleep and it might be gone.
I was once driving to, one of my assistants likes to tell this story. I was once driving my son and my daughter to Legoland, and all of a sudden it just hit me like a hurricane. And within a period of like 7 or 8 minutes, maybe longer than that, maybe a half hour, I started making notes, and it probably was like 10 or 12 different disclosures. And I think I actually filed a few of those, or many of them. I don't remember, just in a short period of time. And I was not interested in coming up with inventions with my kids who were little at the time, screaming in the back of the car, but I just felt compelled to just get a piece of paper out and start writing this one and this one, and this one. I don't have any idea where it comes from, or what causes my neurons to fire in that direction.
So would you say that the creativity comes in bursts? Like you might have a span with nothing coming, and then all of a sudden, like
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely, it's in bursts. Well put, by the way. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. You might have like 2 weeks where you say, "Gee," I've even sometimes said that. I said, "Gee, I wonder if I'll have any more." Sometimes I guess I get a little paranoid, and I say, "Gee, I wonder if I'll have any more ideas." Well, okay, I still have my notebook and my paper napkins. I can still patent that from that. Right. But I never try. I never say, "Oh my God, I have to think of something." But then I'll be, walking around or in a store or in a movie, and I go, "Why can't you do that better?" I just have one that I was watching. I'm not a big sports guy, but my daughter was showing me something from a football game, and they said, in terms of the broadcast, and they said, "Wow, I have a new idea. I was thinking I can do, better than that." So that night when I went to dinner, I did like 3 pages on my iPad of what I'd want to do, and that will get filed. I think. I hope it hasn't been filed yet.
Yeah. Wow. So, because you've been doing this so long, I know you've accumulated an incredible amount of experience that could be helpful to inventors. Tell us about some of your efforts that you have to help other inventors around the country.
Right. The invention, the business that I'm involved in now, my company, Patent Asset Management, it shouldn't be and doesn't rely just on my inventions. We decided, in order to, license inventions, John, and in order to, monetize inventions, a patent, I like to tell people that a patent is only as good as, just a piece of paper. You really do need to do something with it in terms of trying to license it, create a prototype, and become the next IBM. That's great, or license it to them, to an IBM or an Apple or an Uber. That's great, but you need to do something with it in order to be successful in terms of the monetization. I set up a company about 10 years ago, and now very actively in the last 5 or 6 years with patent professionals, patent attorneys and paralegals and all those operational people that we need. Patent asset management. We're headquartered here in Fort Lauderdale. We also have an office in India and another one in London. And what we do with both my inventions and other inventors that come to us that have patents, we're not in the patenting business, not at all. We leave that to great professionals, John, like you, super duper patent, attorneys like you. But once someone has a patent and says, what can I do with it? We will examine with our resources. We have in our office in India, we have engineers on staff and a whole bunch of scientists. We will examine that patent, see who is infringing that patent, and who is possible to take a license on that patent. And then we'll pursue that either through a licensing campaign or litigation assertion campaign. We've managed to, assert probably more than 1,000 times now for myself and for our other clients. We have hundreds, as I think you were pointing out in the beginning of this show, we have hundreds of licenses with companies, around the world, major companies like Apple and, and Samsung and, other major companies. So that's become a business. I still like to say to everyone, I like inventing more than the business. I like that better, but it is a business and it has been very successful. And I'm very pleased that probably one of the great joys is forgetting me that, someone that walks in, we recently took on an aviation patent from someone and we were able to, as an example, and we were able to monetize it and bring that inventor, that sole inventor, money that probably he wouldn't have had. And we're doing that now more and more. It's not becoming just a Leigh Rothschild patent, based on my patents. Right. We're taking in and acquiring and assisting in, acquiring and assisting in a whole bunch of other patents. I'm very proud of that. And I know the people that I work with are motivated and proud of that as well.
Well, and because that kind of levels the playing field for individual inventors and small startups, because a lot of times when the rights are trampled on by larger corporations, it's because they believe that there's not going to be anybody fighting to assert those patents and that they can just take whatever they want because, just because of the way the legal system is kind of structured. It's really hard sometimes for an individual inventor to assert their patent. But it's, companies like yours that help make that possible. So you're doing a great service for inventors. And that's the, when people are looking at as if, asserting patents is something new, but you mentioned in one of your interviews that the Wright brothers, the inventors of the airplane, they had to assert their rights against larger companies that were infringing. So this is something that's Thomas Edison, the same thing. I mean, that's why patents are provided for in the Constitution. It's a constitutional right for inventors to prevent others from making, using, or selling their patented ideas.
From what I know, John, with Orville and Wilbur, recent book that was written about it, the definitive book, they spent more time in court than they did in their bicycle shop inventing the airplane. Tom Edison, maybe not that because he was in the lab a lot, but boy, he certainly wasn't a stranger to the court. He was involved in a whole bunch of patent litigation. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the corporations that exist in America, they start from nothing and then they become these huge colossuses. Even though they started from nothing, many of them still have the attitude, if it's not invented here, it's not a valid patent. If it's not, if it's not an X patent, it's not a valid patent. And that's a bad attitude, and that really frauds innovation in our country. So if there's anything I'd like to see, definitely, I think we do need a revision to some of the recent, as you said, 2013, and some of the other things that have come. The Alice decision, which is a really bad decision by the Supreme Court, in my opinion, maybe not a bad decision, but not interpreted. No one knows how to interpret it properly. And that has really been, the bane of everyone's existence. And I just certainly hope, as someone who has had some success, that the little guy that's out there, can you imagine all the Thomas Edisons, excuse me, Jefferson was pretty good too, but not as an inventor.
Not as prolific as Edison.
Jefferson invented, I don't know. If he did, I apologize to he and his family. But Edison certainly was a great inventor, I believe that there's so many Edisons out there, so many, with great concepts, Jeff Bezos and the people that we mentioned, Mark Zuckerberg, and those guys should not be trampled upon, They should have an opportunity to take their ideas and make them into, major pillars of the US economy. And so I thoroughly believe that to the extent that we can help, we're pleased to, but I think it's going to take far more than me and far more than my company. It's going to take, some revision of legislation and some recognition that, tell me if you agree, John, some recognition that these small guys can be, the pillars of society, the pillars of the economy, the pillars of technology.
Well, and I agree 100%. I don't know what more recognition there could be. We just rattled off over a dozen companies that are huge multinational corporations that started, and I'm not saying started in the 1800s. They started not even during my lifetime, during my kids' lifetime. The company did nothing and they exploded. But we're out of time. But I want to end with just one final question. If you had one piece of advice that you wish somebody had given you as an inventor, perhaps, that if you want to pass that on to those that are watching today.
It's simple. It's go forward, believe in your own ideas, take the advice that you're giving yourself seriously, and just move forward and do it. And I think then you'll have success. And if you fail on the first one or the second one or the third one, don't be afraid to be standing still and to be standing upright and just go forward again, because that fourth one could turn out to be, one of the great American companies or one of the great world inventions.
Exactly. Wonderful. I couldn't have said it better myself, Leigh. This has been marvelous having you here. I want to thank you for being here. And everybody else, have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your Friday.
Thank you, John, so much. I really enjoyed it.